Good day, everybody. It is our weekly Thursday Q&A. Karen's actually on time today, which is fun. I love that. Listen, I got to tell you something just from personal experience. Money isn't just a bunch of numbers, okay? Money is stress and money is guilt and sleepless nights, but it's also joy and fun and calm and all kinds of other things too. And I think with some of the pressures we've had on the market and the political landscape lately, everyone's thinking about money more than ever. And here's the thing, nobody really teaches us quite specifically how to handle their own money. Most people are drowning. A lot of people are probably drowning right now. But we want to change that today, which is exciting. I'm joined by Meri-Li. She is the founder of financial planner and money coach of Be Wealthy is the company,
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
Yes. And so no fluff, just strategies that work. And I'm proud to say my own personal money coach, which is cool. That's a good little reference or referral for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
We've trusted her with our family's income and our family's future, which is pretty amazing. So listen, Meri-Li, welcome. Thank you for coming on the show, on the big show.
Uh, I, I'm
It's a
excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to start with a good one, and as usual, Karen, just cut me off and jump in whenever you want to jump in. We love that. We know you come up with some amazing questions. We love it. Uh, the first one's a big one. What inspired you to like? What is it that draws you in to be a money coach?
That's a fun question, and I feel like there's been a lot of pivots in my life. I've always been into money and finance. Like since I was a kid, I thought I'd be an entrepreneur. My dad and grandfather were, and I gravitated towards finance. So I worked on Bay Street for a very long time.
Cool.
And then in 2016, my youngest son got very ill. So
Mm,
just overnight, life changed completely. I had to step away from work. I had to just do everything that our family could to take care of him. And of course, after a while, the money piece becomes stressful.
mm,
And I realized that my own finances, despite the skills that I had and all of those things, I wasn't really optimizing what I was doing with my money. We earned a high income, we spent a lot of money, always saving and doing all of those good things, but there were things that I could do to just make my own finances better. It happened that when I was in the hospital with my son, I came across two really important, kind of pieces of information. One was that financial or money coaching is an actual profession. I had never heard of that before. And the other was that there were a lot of people pursuing financial freedom, early retirement, all of those concepts. And that was, again, something that I'd never come across because I was working with a subset of clients that were very driven. They had great careers, very traditional retirement dates. And just even thinking of early retirement was something that I had not envisioned for myself. But just that major crisis for our family, it really made me think about what I was doing for career, how I was working with clients, and how much of my own time was going into commuting specifically and childcare. And it was in that year that I decided that I was going to be a money coach because I wanted to help people with starting with cash flow. It is a very unserved area, but that is where your savings come from. That is where you can get that freedom and peace in your finances by, figuring out how to navigate debt, paying off mortgages. All of those things are really, really important. And there's not a lot of people to help you on that side.
I have a very good friend. I won't name names because I want to keep it anonymous, but she had some severe illnesses and she's very wealthy, very, very wealthy, lives in a multi-million dollar house. She built a huge house up in the country, it was like 20,000 square feet and sold that and moved to somewhere else beautiful, all these things. When she got really sick and these illnesses sort of hit her and she ended up with a car accident and a few other things happened to her, she said to me, one of the things you don't realize is because I think we all have it in our head that, medical stuff is covered in Canada,
Mhm.
one of the things you don't realize when you get into those situations is that that money runs out real quick. Your insurance money runs out real quick. And then it's like, what now? And I think part of what you're talking about there is great. We have great professions, great careers. How can we make everything better
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
just the norm or
Yeah.
the average,
Yeah.
is what it sounds like.
For sure. And what I realized kind of in my own story and process that I looked at with my finances was how much money I was wasting. Like it was purchases that I thought I had to make. And when I really started to reflect on all of my financial decisions, it was amazing how I could see that they're very different from what actually makes me feel good and what I actually
Right.
enjoy spending money on. We,
Right.
yeah, like
Interesting.
yeah, so we rarely had money to travel
Mm.
because we had daycare, like all of those things to pay for. But that was one of my key values was to have travel and adventure. So it was just where money was going.
Yeah.
We did a lot of eating out, a lot of money went there. And I see that in clients' budgets. So when I do work with clients, I look at the everyday cash flow. I really appreciate they trust me to see that view of their finances because it is interesting, and I can usually, tell what's important to them
Mhm.
just based on where money
But
goes.
eating out is super addictive.
It is, yeah,
Like it's like you like
It's
it's especially with
laziness.
kids.
Yeah, it's laziness.
Well, it's not even laziness. It's like you come home, you're exhausted, the kids are running around like maniacs. You just want to get something done. You don't want to have to cook anything. Let's just go grab something. You know what I mean? And especially now more than ever with skip the dishes and all these things you can order in,
yeah,
you know, which is a clever name because it makes it even more addictive.
it sure does, yeah.
Yeah. So you're finding little things here and there that you can change the mindset to be
Mhm.
able to save the money, but also potentially use it more effectively to create more money, quite frankly.
Exactly. And that's the financial planning side
Mm.
is okay, so we've looked at the cash flow, we can see some opportunities, we can see some loose ends to tie up. Like there are people in their household who will have multiple of the same subscription. So they've got, Prime twice,
Oh,
Amazon twice. They're like everyone's paying for different streaming services and they're not using all of them. So it's just kind of doing a little bit of an audit and cleanup and then taking some of that found money and directing it to some other goals. So they could be shorter term. So sometimes it's vacation. Often the first step is just getting an emergency fund in place. So cash that is purely for when the next emergency comes along. And then the longer term perspective is sometimes they want to upgrade their house. Whether that's a renovation or buying a bigger house. Well, usually you need some sort of savings to make it happen. So it's directing money to that goal. And that makes people feel really good because suddenly they're stepping out from just getting by the paycheck to paycheck and they're realizing that they're able to meet some of these very long-term goals. Like they're working towards them.
let's connect our two little professions here.
Yeah.
How do you see real estate fitting into a family's long-term strategy?
Yeah, so personally, I've always owned real estate. I almost feel itchy when I don't have a home, but I don't think it's the right solution for every single person. So there's always things to think about. So in terms of building wealth, it has been one of the big areas for Canadians. That's where our wealth has been built. It is through
Mhm.
housing. It works because it's a forced savings, right? You buy your house, you have a mortgage, it's automated, mortgage gets paid down, and then you have this large asset. It's harder to recreate on the investing side because a lot of people won't take the steps to set up the investment account, know what to buy, and keep up with that consistently. And certainly the leverage that you get from purchasing a home is about the best that's out there. So, for a lot of people, it really fits their strategy. I do see more and more people that are choosing to sell homes and do things like take earlier retirements and live in another country or do extended travel
Mhm.
or things like downsizing. So, maybe they want to, they're not quite sure where they want to live. So they want to go to a different city, rent for a year or two. And then if they decide that is the place,
Yeah.
then they make the decision to purchase.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have a client who actually sold her home and she was supposed to buy something else. And she emailed me and said, Karen, I'm so sorry, but my financial advisor advised me to lease, which was better. And then I'm living off my dividends. So
Mm.
that's what she's doing. And she's in her 70s, I guess.
Yeah.
So that, but you know, the unknown to that is, and this is what I say, the unknown to that is that how long are you going to live? You know, you could live to 110 and keep living off those dividends. Are they going to be continuous for you? Are you going to live within that income? And it's because you know the cost of living goes up. So
It does. And that's an important consideration. Like my mom is in her 70s as well, and she continues to own, and purely because she doesn't want the instability of having to change rentals, not knowing what the cost will be and having to move. She wants to be in her place. That's going to be the last place that she's going to own,
yeah.
and that gives her a lot of comfort to have that. Whereas for her, renting feels too uncertain, and she does not enjoy any sort of financial stress or volatility.
So explain. So, okay, I'm going to hire you as a coach. And so talk to our audience what the steps are to, money coaching.
Yeah, so great question. So the first step is, I always meet people. I do a consultation that is complimentary just to have a discussion, to get a view of their finances, to make sure I can help. So I want to make sure that I can offer some sort of value that they're going to benefit from. Then when clients agree to proceed, I do gather some financial information so that at our first meeting is very informed. I know what their income is from all different sources. I know what their expenses are, their debts, and all of the assets that they have. So their house value, their retirement savings, all the pieces. And we spend the first meeting going through mostly the all of the different areas. So we talk about income. Are there any changes coming up? Is your job secure? That's one of the topics that's coming up a lot with all the tariff talk and all the changes in our economy. Is my job secure? Will my commissions remain? Like all of those questions are coming up a lot. And then I do provide some guidance on some cash flow ways to look at your cash flow. So setting up an emergency fund. And we talk about purchases that will happen over the next year. So things like vacation, camp fees for kids, maybe it's dental expenses. We've got tons of those right now with braces and all of those good things. We create a plan for those because they're the expenses that create a lot of pressure on families' cash flow.
Yeah.
They don't happen on a monthly basis, they happen ad
Mm.
hoc. So we
Yeah.
create a plan for those. And then the subsequent meetings are the longer term picture. So looking at what you've got in place for retirement, looking at what you're doing now, and then creating some scenarios where you either increase savings, maybe you're upgrading a house. A lot of younger people, that's what they want to see is if we upgrade our house, what does that look like for our finances? And I look at all the areas. So we look at their insurance, we look at what they're doing on the investment front. I don't manage investments, I don't sell anything else, but I will review those areas with clients so that it's very comprehensive. We're not just looking at it from like a tax lens or an investment lens.
Do you work hand in hand with a financial advisor?
I can, yeah. So that was a lot of my career. That's what I was doing. So I'm very versed in that area. And for a good portion of people, they want to have a financial advisor. We can work together just to ensure that they also have a plan for the everyday cash flow and that they understand their finances. And sometimes I can help people work better with their financial advisor.
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
in those meetings and no one, like, often people kind of go blank and they just listen and don't ask any questions. So I help them to ask those educated questions so that they can better understand their own finances.
Yeah.
How do you help overcome, and this might be a little bit of a personal question knowing that I've hired you to help to help us. How do you help people overcome feeling guilty or ashamed about their mistakes that they've made in the past?
I think everyone has that. Like
Mm.
this is the biggest thing when it comes to money is sure there's the numbers, but the behavioral piece makes up a huge part of it. We all build our money behaviors from what happened in childhood.
Mm.
And it's really hard to kind of think that that's true, but it is. And, whenever I have these discussions with clients, it comes up over and over again. I know it happened to me. I always felt really scared about money because my mom had one of those careers where they did frequent layoffs. So I would see when there was a time period where there could be a potential layoff, like our household
Ah,
would not spend anything. It was very scarce.
yeah.
So for me, financial comfort feels like having a lot of savings. But the guilt and shame, I mean, I have it too. I've done some dumb decisions with my money over the years.
Hmm.
And it really is just shifting that, realizing that it happens to everyone and taking some forward-looking steps.
Hmm.
So even making one decision that's a quick win, so you get that boost of confidence
Yeah.
and then keep going from that.
Interesting. That's a really great point because even in the last 24 hours, I've made a quick decision and I've had a phone conversation that has set me in the right direction. And it took me from a really bad spot where I was like, damn it, to I feel like there's a light at the end of that problem now. Right.
Yeah.
So, like, I can completely understand and resonate with what that feels like. And I just want to make sure that our audience understands like, we are all not alone. We've all made mistakes. Like, really hammer that point home. Like, Karen Paul has made mistakes with her money. Meri-Li has made mistakes with her money. But the thing is, the beautiful part is that I've gone to these people and I have these people as mentors in my life, which is beautiful now. I realized probably 5 years ago, I don't know everything. I thought I
Yeah.
knew everything. I think a lot of 20-year-olds think they know everything, right? I'm not 20 anymore, but I'm just saying about 5 years ago when I went out on my own 6 years ago for
Far
my
from
money.
being 20.
No, really far from being 20. But my point is I felt like I knew a lot. I could do it. I could handle it. And I think we go through life just kind of floating along that way until we realize we've come up against something that we don't know. And I remember that epiphany of like hiring this real estate coach to build our real estate business, hiring a financial planner, like an actual financial person to invest our money, hiring an accountant to take care of all that because I knew nothing. I could sit in front of Inuit all day and I would have no idea what I
Yeah.
was doing with anything. And so full circle to a few years later, realizing that there's a Meri-Li out there, not understand. I didn't know there was that out there. I should have hired you 5 years ago, but I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Otherwise I would have. Right. That's my biggest problem here at this moment.
Thank your mother. Thank your mother.
Yeah. And it was actually Karen, my mom, who turned around and said, I remember I hired someone 35 years ago that walked me through this moment in my life that was this. And I was like, oh, I need that. But back then Google wasn't around. So now Google's around.
Yeah.
And how lucky am I that I stumbled across Meri-Li to kind of pull me out and pull me through this stuff. And we're just scratching the surface, Meri-Li and I right now, of everything we're going to
For
do.
sure. Yeah.
But you just watch everyone. I'm calling it
Yeah.
right now because my life is gonna skyrocket. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so do you have any success stories of people that you feel like really kind of small success stories or little things that you could share with us?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like there's so many. I think I've had one recently. This was really interesting. Was again kind of a complicated family history with a parent that never made a lot of money and first to go through university education in the family.
Mm.
And we looked at her finances. She had always depended on debt. There was some consumer debt there. It's a couple. And during our meeting, she was really interested in seeing like how they could save to reach a certain goal. Like they want to end work a little bit earlier and they want to start a business. So that she's very, very goal driven in that sense. And we went through all of her information. I outlined what her debt payment, like when she could have her debts paid off. And she thought, you know what, I want to do this faster. And I actually got a phone call a couple of weeks ago from another company headhunting me. I was going to just ignore it because, it's a lot of work to go and move jobs and all of those things. And, but after the conversation, she said, you know what, I'm going to go and do this. And she got the job, and it is a substantial, like it was like, I don't know, a 40% increase in her income, way more benefits, all of those things. And so that was a really fun one that happened really, really quickly. Just from like just seeing her numbers and realizing I actually don't want to do this hard stuff for 5 years. I'd rather get this out of the way faster and then be able to move
Yeah.
on to buying
Yeah.
a house and
That's
putting money away.
wonderful. That's
That's
amazing.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah. Now the
Um,
job that she took, does she have to go travel further or do anything?
No, no.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
that's
so
So,
amazing.
yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
that's a great point too, Karen, is I talk about a lot of the life pieces too, because every financial decision can have an impact on your life. So it's your time, it's your energy, and certainly if you're leaving a job that is remote and going to a job that involves, a 2 hour a day commute, that's a
Yeah.
lot of cost, both financial
Huge.
and energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Huge.
Well,
Huge.
even the psychology of the people you work with can play into how you perform on a daily basis and how you come home. And then the decisions you make when you're home and the things goes from there, right? So it's
Yeah.
very interesting. It's much deeper than we really realize.
It
I
sure
want, I
is.
want to talk about eating out because I think that that's a big, big topic. I don't know, Mary Lee, Mary Lee,
Meri-Li, we're good.
Mary
Yeah.
Lee, Mary Lee, yeah, Lee, Mary Lee. Eating out is, and Justin's right. It's a habit, but I found that in my world, because I'm alone or I'm with my partner from time to time, that it's laziness because, oh, I have to cook dinner. Well, I can easily go out. I can afford to go out. And it's just recently because of the food of the restaurant prices going up so high
Mm.
and the food not tasting that great anymore in restaurants because I don't know what they're doing, but the quality has definitely changed. I have now, I'm going to the grocery store, making dinners that are good. And like, for instance, Justin made homemade pizza last night, which I thought was fabulous. And, situations like that. And it's so much better. It's so much nicer to have
My
family.
kids like that pizza more than they like the bought pizza from from Pizza Pizza or whatever else.
But and so I've changed my ways totally. And I think we're going out maybe, oh, we go out for brunch on Sunday, and that's what we do. But that's it.
So can I flip that on its head a little bit? Because I know Karen's the type of person that wants to always think positively about situations. And whether you love him or hate him, back in the day, I used to follow Grant Cardone a lot, and I don't know
Okay.
if you know, if you know. And so, in one of his books, I think it was "Be Obsessed or Be Average" was the book that I read, which was probably one of my favorite books that he wrote.
Okay.
There's a whole section about eating out, and he said, never bring a brown bag lunch.
Okay.
Go out for lunch every single day. And he says, go out to the same place every single day and get to know every single person that comes and goes from that restaurant during that lunch hour every single day. You're going
Oh,
to get to know the
I
regulars
see
that
where
go
it's going with this.
come and go. You're going to get to know all the staff from being there all the time. And once you've maximized your connections in that place, you can spot check in and go once a week or something and go to a new place and use that opportunity to actually leverage your time into relationships in those places. He said, because he used to be a car salesman, right? That's
Hmm.
how he started everything. So in his mind, he was like, I'm going to go in there, develop all these relationships and sell cars to as many people that I can. Us in real estate, we could leverage the same opportunity, go into a restaurant every single day, write it off because it's a write off, technically speaking, for us, and develop those relationships.
Yeah.
And the same could be said for like if you're going out at night for dinner with your family, because you could do the same sort of thing,
Yeah.
especially if it's a family oriented area and you could do that again if you can
Yeah.
afford it. But I just want to flip that on its head a little bit. I think there's different ways to look at everything.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it intentionally with a purpose on the other end, I
Mhm.
think there's merit in it. But I
Absolutely.
also understand the idea of like saving money because that's
Yeah.
important too.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. Like we still eat out. We eat out quite a bit. It's usually on vacation, so it's very intentional or it's for an event and it's an experience. Like we want to make sure that it's not just grabbing food because we
Yeah.
just didn't have
Yeah.
it planned and that it's not so great of a meal. Like sometimes you eat out at a restaurant and it's kind of subpar and it sucks to spend like 150 bucks on a meal that you didn't really enjoy.
Yeah.
I think it's the intentionality that is the big piece of it, and just understanding what's within your parameters. Like what I do is I look at people's expenses as a percentage of their income, so their after tax in their pocket income. And I'll show them like, okay, so you know that you spend, 20% on food of your income. Do you feel good with that number? Does it seem high? Like what's comfortable for you? And we'll look at the amount that gets spent on restaurants. And sometimes people will decide, you know what, when we eat out, it's actually stressful. A lot of the times it's with kids, and we can make different decisions to put money elsewhere.
Mm.
But I completely agree with at times it's an investment. If you're networking, if you're going to events, then
It makes
definitely that's,
sense. It makes
yeah,
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where I think Meri-Li jumps in to help out because your point is absolutely correct. Are you going to spend 150 bucks a week going out every Friday night? Or are you going to spend, 600 bucks a month dumping that money into some investment fund that's going to make you whatever it's going to make you?
yeah,
Right. So there's a difference. And quite frankly, I remember when I was a kid, and I don't know how you all feel. I know my mom's a little older than us. So she's, Meri-Li and I are probably more the same age. But when I was a kid, going out for dinner was like an event. It was like a I got to have Pepsi or Coke. Like
yeah,
I never had that at home. It's like a whole thing, right? Like so now it's like people just go out for dinner. Let's just go out for dinner. Like it's not a big deal. But the price of going out for dinner, like, wow, what did it cost when we all went out for dinner as a family of four back in the day? Like 50, 60 bucks for the dinner, maybe at the high end. If you had wine, now like you have a glass of wine, if you do that sort of thing, and it's like 150, 200 bucks for a family of four or five.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's crazy, So anyhow, I love all that. I got one last question that I think so we can roll out with, and maybe we can banter back and forth a little bit about what does financial freedom actually mean to you?
So to me personally, in its simplest form, it's being able to choose what I get to do every day. Like I'm at that stage now. So I worked in corporate a lot of my career where I had my set vacation. I had to be in the office. Like we had an in the office job. It still is that way. So I can now go on a field trip. I don't need to ask anyone for
Mm,
permission.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that I have the flexibility to not work in the like I don't need to do it. I want to do it. It's something that brings me purpose and enjoyment, and I know that we're going to be okay if something happens. So that to me that's freedom.
And contextually, I feel like everybody has their own version of what that looks like for them.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you right now, Karen's idea of freedom and success and happiness seems to include working every day like a freaking maniac. And it keeps her young and vibrant and alive.
It-
And I think she loves it.
That's right. And financial freedom to me is to be able to not necessarily prioritize and work, but I do. I get up in the morning and that's the first thing I'm on is that smartphone and I don't know why. It's just one of those things in my mind is just racing with ideas and concepts and Justin's wife is our administrator, and she must think I'm crazy because I go do, and what's about this and what, and can we do this? And yes, can we do that? And then it stops at about 10:30, 11 o'clock because then I start with my appointments or with calls and things like that. But my financial freedom is, yeah, okay, exactly what you said, Meri-Li, is just be able to do whatever you want to do that day. Get up in the morning and say, okay, I really don't want to work today, so I'm gonna go and do that. And everybody knows that I'm in my 70s. I have to be because of all the, everybody knows that I've been in the business for 47 years. So, but the thing is that I don't want to retire. I'm not a golfer. I don't want to sit back and become a couch potato or watch Netflix all day long. I want to be out there, go out there, walk, talk, and do whatever I have to do. So, yeah.
And I think just to sort of bring that point full circle is like one of the nice things about Meri-Li that I feel like is coming from my point of view, even though we've had some not difficulty, but we've had some struggles getting to where we need to be because my financial situation is so complicated. It's almost like a reverse engineer of the here's what we want to do. How do
Yeah.
we reverse engineer it to kind of build up to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so everybody's that is going to be like totally different. I mean, some might be the same, but for the most part, like I've always said, like I want to be at every hockey game for every opportunity I can for my kids.
Yeah.
And my daughter has
that's been amazing,
my
Justin.
daughter has a dance competition coming up the end of March in Brantford. She's got one dance for that competition. It's a solo dance. It's her first solo dance of the year. And I'm actually getting goosebumps saying it because I'm dying for it because it's going to be so good. And she's so excited about it. And I'm going to be there. And I don't care about where I am, what my job is, what my things are. I will plan for that and build that out. And I will make sure that we have the finances to do that sort of thing and not worry about the work on the back end and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so that's I think my thing. And
Yeah.
it's sort of prioritized around my kids as opposed to me. And then once my kids go, then we'll change my financial success story because I want to travel and do all kinds of fun
Yeah.
stuff with my wife. So
Well, and that's the coolest part of my job is I do try to get people to articulate that, like what their concept
I bet
of
you people have a hard time with that too.
they have a very hard time because most of us, we really get into society's structure and we
Mm,
can't really see the vision outside of it. And sometimes it happens like meeting two, meeting three, where someone says, I actually want to have a food truck in whatever country. Like that's
right.
their big vision, their big dream. And
Wow.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh, there it is. It's finally coming out.
That's so cool. And I actually think it's really cool that you get to be on that part of the journey with people and explore that with them
Yeah.
because that's all the positive things. Yeah, there's some shit that they deal with and stuff that they go through, but your whole goal is to help them get to the positive. So
Yeah.
when I get to know that I get to speak to you, I know it's going to be a positive, something positive.
Yeah.
You're going to
Yeah.
turn it into
Which is really
something positive.
nice. Which
Yeah,
is
it's
really
really cool. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So everybody's going to call Meri-Li for
Yes,
money coaching.
please. She needs
Because
more
I'm
clients.
going to tell you that I found that when I got a money coach, I was set on the right path to a certain extent, and I really helped me. But I think Meri-Li is far different than what my coach was
Mm.
like a few years ago. But I think that on a positive situation, you always have to be positive when you're dealing with people that need help with money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think Meri-Li is the gal for you.
Yeah.
You know
Thanks.
what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. So it is what
Exactly.
it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Meri-Li. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. You don't have to hang up yet. I'll say goodbye to
Okay.
everybody and then, but thanks for being on and
Yeah.
see everybody soon.